Listen closely. The first time a Kark warlord tried to hunt on Dock 9, he left with a parking ticket and a complimentary chili recipe instead of my leg, and that was the moment predators started losing the script. I'm Rhea Park, logistics chief of Station Hecate's free anchorage, which means I shout at pallets until they cooperate and bribe loaders with coffee. Our enclave is messy, loud, and allergic to ceremony. Predators favor tidy hunting grounds. We keep ours cluttered enough to confuse an apex. Once a cycle, the Kark come for tribute. The rite is simple, the warlord docks, announces. Prey will run. And everything sentient becomes an indoors snack unless you can cite the accord and offer equivalent tribute. Most prey keep goats. We have 3, 2 are mascots and the third, Sir Bleatsalot, knows the crane's emergency stop. On the day Warlord Thresh arrived, we were celebrating Founding Day on the wrong date because the calendar app reset to Earth standard. Fairy lights laced the docks, a disco ball was zip-tied to a customs drone, and the air smelled like solvent and peppers. Then his dreadnought's shadow fell across Ring B and the clamps seized like a planet holding its breath. Thresh stepped through the pressure lock in right armor, 8 feet of serrated authority. 6 lieutenants formed a crescent, visors mirrored and hungry. He inhaled. Our cooks stirred vats of chili. Somewhere, Sir Bleatsalot bowed like a prophecy. By the Rite of Dominance, Thresh rumbled. Prey will run. I advanced with a clipboard some people would call a sword. Truth, I had no plan. I had forms and the certainty that if he set the tone, our festival would end in a slaughter. Welcome to free anchorage, I said. Dock 9 is a purple zone during festivals. I'll need your hazardous recreation declaration, weapons lockout tags, and acknowledgement that high-visibility vests are mandatory. He blinked. Predators expect fear, not clipboards. The right supersedes lesser ordinances, hissed the lieutenant. Local safety governance during festivals falls under Accord subsection 9, I said. I pointed at a crate of neon vests. XXL? Thresh leaned until his breath fogged my faceplate. We are Apex, he said softly. We do not wear vests. OSHA disagrees, I said. I wasn't sure OSHA existed here. It sounds like a thunder god, which helps. I passed him a pen. Initial to acknowledge receipt of one vest you refused to wear. Behind me, humans stifled laughter. Behind him, lieutenants simmered. Thresh looked past me. Mechanics in grease-stained jackets, nobody running. Not prey as his stories promised. He took the pen. That was the first wobble. I flipped my clipboard. Excellent. Equivalent tribute? I gestured. We have 10,000 industrial fasteners, 2 barrels of chili base, and 1 artifact of ancient earth mating rituals. I pointed to the disco ball. Shiny. The lieutenants bristled. Thresh watched steam lift from the vats. What is that smell? Capsaicin, I said. A plant scream distilled. I slid him a tasting cup with a tiny umbrella because temptation should look festive. A lieutenant slapped it away, splashing red on the deck. Thresh considered the stain, then me. He could order a kill and be done. Or take a different bite. He extended a claw. Another. I gave him 2. He sipped. Crest twitch. Throat spines rippled as heat performed a sermon. He did not cough. He considered flavor as elective pain, and nodded. What tribute do you request in exchange? He asked. Exchange? I bought 1 heartbeat while my brain sprinted. First, no running hunts during festivals. Second, respect purple zones. Third, access to Kark transit lanes so we can sell this chili at your frontier posts at a fee we set. You think to change your right with sauce? A lieutenant snarled. With a contract, I said. Ari from Calms lit the hand-painted sign she'd been making, a meteor pepper trailing fire. Meteor mouth. Thresh finished his cup, exhaled carefully, and tapped my clipboard with a talon. Predators choose the rules by which they rule. Today, Predator chooses to sign. The station breathed out. The disco ball shed coins of light. Thresh initialed. I countersigned like I wasn't shaking. Music swelled again. Relief lasted one breath. A signed warlord questioned the right, and predators who liked their myths simple would come to fix the plot. Our joke had become precedent. I offered Thresh a high-vis vest. He took it, not wearing it, as though holding a flag from a war he hadn't known he was fighting. "Enjoy the festival," I said. "Samples are free until capsaicin fog becomes a hazard classification." He studied the lights. "I will try flavor," he said. "Then, lower for me alone. Park of the free anchorage, others will come who prefer blood to rules. You have made prey interesting." "That's the problem with prey," I said. "We file appeals." We shook, claw to glove, predator to quartermaster. In the scaffolding above, the drones spun a constellation, and in the station's bones a line wrote itself in neon: "If the hunt is a story, humans will edit the script." After Thresh left, the festival surged. Ari's terminal pinged with vendors begging for licensing details. Our cooks ladled bowl after bowl while I drafted the transit clause. I kept glancing at the airlock where he had stood. Ashok jogged up. "We need palletized spice, venting, signage, caution, flavor. Can we trademark that?" "File it," I said. "And prep purple zones for when the copycats arrive." "Copycats?" "Predators." I tapped the clipboard. "They'll test the new rule. Some bring teeth. Some bring pens. Either way, we'll make them wear vests." I squared the forms. "Let's change the rules," I murmured. The disco ball tossed a shard of light across my notes. Sir Bleatsalot stomped the crane's emergency stop once, as if the station agreed. That night, a rumor raced the trade lanes. The prey on Hecate did not run. They negotiated, branded, and infsed. The right would not survive that untreated. Tonight. The first sign we'd edited the galaxy's script was a courier drone smacking into Dock 9's ceiling because its pilot couldn't stop laughing at a memo. Ours, requiring apex predators to barrel-proof their swagger, with high-vis vests and hairnets around open food stations. By morning, the rumor had molted into a stampede. Merchant nets lit with debates about whether the Rite of Dominance could survive a chili tasting and an invoice. Predator forums buzzed with incredulous screeds about prey in hats inventing rules. The second sign was less funny. The transient gate flared like a migraine, and 3 ships shouldered out of the boil, their hulls tattooed with clans I recognized from Ari's hasty flashcards: Rhea Kites, Dalsuin Tusk Runners, and a slick corporate wedge with the logo of Hunter's Mutual Assurance, the underwriters of beautiful stupidity. They'd come to fix the story. "Purple zones up," I called over comms. "All chili cookers to safe simmer. Vending drones to avoid talons, please. Sir Bleatsalot, don't." A hoof clanged somewhere near the crane's emergency stop. Of course it did. Warlord Thresh reappeared from his dreadnought's gantry wearing the universal expression of a soldier who knows the second battle is worse than the first. He was not wearing a vest. He was carrying it like a treaty flag, which was almost better. The Vree descended first, lanky, mantis graceful, with mouthparts like a nightmare zipper. Their leader clicked contempt at the fairy lights. "This is a hunt," she said. "You are a buffet. We're a festival with codes," I said, stepping forward until my clipboard could see its own reflection in her carapace. "Accord 9 applies." She tilted her head. "You make laws smell like peppers." "We make everything smell like peppers right now," Ashok murmured, hauling a drum of capsaicin concentrate toward the blending rig. We'd relabeled it Spiritual Cleanser for the sake of irony and safety. The Dalsuin chief shouldered in, shaggy, tusks gold-banded, 9 feet of tradition in fur. "Right says pray run," he rumbled. "Right says hunters feast. Right does not say paperwork." The corporate wedge's envoy slithered down a ramp wrapped in glossy confidence. "Hunter's Mutual Assurance," they announced through a speaker grill, vowels softened by a dozen settlements worth of smoothing. "We insure hunts under Clause Apex Prime. If you change the parameters, your coverage lapses. That exposes all parties to unpleasant actuarial innovations." Translation: they'd cancel predator insurance mid-hunt to force compliance. Neat trick. Ugly edge. I felt the station's heartbeat in my palms. I also felt the part of me that loves the shape of a loophole wake up with a grin. "Good morning," I said, channeling every customer service agent who has ever gently led a charging rhinoceros to a waiting room. "We have options. We have tastings. We have a contract signed by an active warlord during a purple zone. Might I offer you a hairnet?" Thresh's crest twitched. The VRI leader's mandibles flared. The Dalswin pawed the deck, offended by the air. The insurance rep produced a sheaf of hollow paper and tried to imply that light could be sharp. Ari, bless her theater kid soul, killed the music. Doc 9 hushed into the kind of silence where rules are made. "We'll begin with a reading," I said. "Accord 9. Denied," the insurance rep said, smiling. "Clause Apex Prime triggers when the word prey is invoked by an Apex claimant and not contemporaneously challenged by another Apex claimant of equal or higher standing within 3 heartbeats. Your festival is not Apex. Your clipboard is not Apex. Your chili is not Apex. The right thus proceeds." Ashok muttered, "I hate it when they're good at being terrible." Thresh's voice dropped like an anchor. "I am Apex," he said. He lifted the vest. "I claimed a change. I signed." The rep's smile widened. They were the kind of bureaucrat that eats signatures for breakfast. "Your claim was not contested by a peer within the required interval. But look!" They gestured with the hollow sheet. "Peers have arrived to contest. Retroactive review of Apex claims may result in adverse determinations." Translation: they would undo Thresh's wobble, reassert the hunt, and put our people on the menu. I didn't breathe for 2 heartbeats. Then I grinned back, because a door had opened. "Thank you for the clarification," I said sweetly. "We contest, contemporaneously, that your hunting parameters do not meet minimum workplace safety criteria for the anchorage." "You are not Apex," the rep repeated. "True," I said. "But the anchorage is. Station Hecate is a registered megastructure under the Accord, with the right to declare operational modes, quarantine, and hazard classifications, and to be recognized as a sovereign entity within its shell. Entities can be Apex. Our station is our Apex." Ari threw my words onto every hollow panel in swirled fonts. Thresh's crest rose as the VRI leader's head ticked. The Dalswin rumbled, processing sovereignty versus supper. The insurance rep's smile thinned. "Some Apexes have claws. Ours had maintenance logs and $1 million compliance binder." "Doc 9 is in purple," I pressed. "Purple is a sovereign emergency ceremony mode. In purple, all entities within must comply with safety signage, hairnets included." "By which logic," the rep said, "we simply hunt outside your purple." "Ringa through ringy our purple," I said. "We like to party." A beat. Then the VRI laughed, clicking like rain on glass. "They purpled the world. It's a big party," Ashok said, dragging another drum to the mixer. "Plenty of snacks. None of them sentient." The Dalswin chief flexed tusks. "I will not be made to wear net of hair." "Then enjoy our non-purple spaces," I said, pointing to the tiniest sliver of off-station void. "We call it outside." Anger started to brew in the gathering predators, not the clean, joyful kind that leads to a good fight, but the all-teeth, no-thinking fury that gets people killed. The insurance reps saw numbers bleeding from their models and went for the jugular. "Last offer," they said. "Disable your purple. Allow the right to proceed within a controlled corridor. We apply a surcharge and continue coverage. Refuse and all hunter claims cancel. Then anyone with a blade may act without protection." And predators love chaos. They were right. If coverage lapsed, we'd be counting bodies. If we allowed the corridor, we'd be counting different bodies. Lose-lose, unless we could change the game board entirely. "Time," Ari whispered in my ear through my suit. "We need time to spin lanes, to lock hatches, to get our surprise prepped." "What surprise?" I whispered back. "The surprise you'll invent in the next 30 seconds, she said. "Right. Okay," I said, raising my hands as if smoothing a sheet on a bed too big for the room. "Compromise. We propose a trial of parameters. The Rhea clicked. The Dalsuin snorted. The rep tilted their head. Thresh spines cocked, and what I'd learned was cocked for keep talking. In the old stories, I said, apexes don't negotiate. They demonstrate. You want to hunt? Prove you can adapt. We'll establish a course through the anchorage, fully marked, fully safe, designed to test whether your hunters can perform within purple constraints, vests, hairnets, hazard cones, no sentient harm, no vent tampering, no unsignaled pouncing. If you can move through our course, retrieve a quarry token, and exit without infractions, your coverage recognizes a new class of hunt, structured pursuit, purple compliant. Then you can file claims for such hunts system-wide. New markets for you. New safety for us. And if we fail, the insurance rep said, then Apex Prime coverage lapses for any hunt attempting to ignore Sovereign Purple, because you've demonstrated your inability to operate safely. You don't want that for your clients. They don't want to pay premiums for hunts they can't perform. So either way, we get peace, through a new class or through deterrence. Silence. Then Ari cued the sign, Meteor Mouth Presents, the Flavor Run. Did you brand my trial? I muttered. You're welcome, she said. The Rhea leader's mouthparts rattled amusement. A test with no blood. How decadent. We accept. The Dalsuin chief's eyes narrowed in practical calculation. Tokens? We have a disco ball, I said. And also goats. Sir Bleatsalot bowed as if on cue. Thresh, of all people, saved me from my own mouth. Tokens will be containers of the pepper scream, he said. Retrieve and carry. Let it mark you. Hunters should be marked by their hunts. Capsaicin, Ashok breathed. He's suggesting capsaicin tokens. That's unsafe, Ari whispered. That's brilliant, I said, because if predators wanted a ritual, we would give them one that tasted like our terms. Yes. Pepper tokens. Safe handled with gloves. Carry without assistance. No spills. Any spillage disqualifies. The insurance rep stared at me with a mixture of hatred and respect usually reserved for auditors. Liability? Waivers for volunteers, I said. And the anchorage will carry event insurance under clause structure purple. You can write it. Better yet, bid it. Behind the rep, their assistants swarmed a hollow, calculating like piranhas. Money talks. Chili sells. Safety, branded well, is irresistible. Course goes live in 20 minutes, I said, clapping once hard. Station prep. Dock 9 erupted into motion. Mechanics tossed vests to snarling hunters and didn't blink when those hunters snarled louder. Ashok and I set up cones, tape, and wind flag ribbons through the maintenance labyrinth, past sealed hatches and decoy cargo, around vats labeled Do Not Enter, letting the path snake enough to humble, not humiliate. Ari hacked guidance drones to throw confetti when a rule was obeyed and a sad trombone when it wasn't, because ceremony matters. I wrote the Flavor Run rulebook on the fly, test lab language wrapped in myth. The pepper watches, I scribbled. The vest honors the hunt. The hand that signals lives. The path is sovereign. I drew tiny peppers next to the penalties, which drove me slightly insane with joy. Thresh watched me write. You are making a right, he said low. We're making a game, I said. Games are how rules wear their fun suits. He touched the vest with his talon. If I run and fail, I lose face. If you run and succeed, I said, you make a future. Also, you'll look great in neon. He huffed what might have been a laugh. You reek of prey, Park. And of pepper. Strange power. 20 minutes later, the Flavor Run ribboned through Hecate like a dare. The Rhea stepped up first, all angles and patience, their leader adjusting a vest with an expression like someone wearing a metaphor. The Dalsuin chief stomped into his hairnet like a coronation crown. The insurance rep posted observers at every corner. Thresh stood with me at the starting line, a pepper token sealed in a clear drum at my feet, its fumes whispering sermons. On your marks, Ari announced over the speakers. Remember, Yield to forklifts, signal your turns, mind the cones, keep your peppers sacred, and this is important. If Sir Bleatsalot looks you in the eyes, that's a stop sign. Sir Bleatsalot stared into the middle distance like an oracle. I raised my hand. The station held its breath. Predators twitched. The disco ball spun. Go, I said, and the galaxy's apex hunters surged into a course designed by a logistics chief with a label maker and a dream. Thresh's roar rolled through the corridors, not in anger, but exhilaration. The flavor run had begun, and the apex hunters of 3 clans tore through Dock 9's course as if glory could still be eaten. The moment they crossed the first line of hazard cones, a confetti drone swooped down and unleashed a blast of silver streamers. The predators froze, uncertain whether they had just been attacked or celebrated. The humans watching from catwalks cheered and rang cowbells. Penalty! Ari announced gleefully through the speakers. Failure to signal before movement. -2 style points, +1 fabulous entrance. The Dalswing chief blinked, tusks glinting under the disco ball's spin. Style points? He thundered. Yep, I said into the mic. It's not enough to be apex, you've gotta look good doing it. The Rhea leader hissed something that might have been laughter, or murder, and lunged ahead, ducking under safety tape and leaping onto a crate. Her vest glowed neon yellow, reflecting the chilly fumes curling in the air. The pepper token strapped to her back sloshed like a living flame, leaving a faint vapor trail of capsaicin. Thresh followed close behind, his movements slower but deliberate. He obeyed every signal light, sidestepped a forklift reversing with a polite beep, and even gave a thumbs up to a human loader who shouted, "Good form!" as he passed. He was learning. And that scared the other predators more than the chili ever could. The Dalswin tried to brute force it, charging through tape and cones alike. Every time his shoulder hit a cone, a confetti burst exploded in his face with a sarcastic "Wah wah!" from the speakers. Dock damage infraction, Ari announced. Please report to safety seminar for retraining. Laughter rippled through the onlookers. Some predators looked ready to eat her. Others weren't sure whether they wanted to laugh too. Halfway through the course, the real challenge began, the pepper gauntlet. It wasn't combat. It was endurance. The hunters had to pass through an atmospheric chamber filled with capsaicin vapor at culinary hazard level. Humans could barely walk through it without masks. Predators would taste it through their gills, carapaces, and fur. Thresh didn't hesitate. He pulled on a respirator, human-sized, duct-taped to fit, and stepped into the red haze like a warrior walking into myth. The Rhea leader hesitated, mandibles twitching. Is this poison? Technically? I said. Yes. But it's food-grade poison. She muttered something in her clicking tongue, then followed. The Dalswin chief bellowed a war cry and charged in after them. For 30 heartbeats, the viewing deck was silent except for the distant echo of coughing, roaring, and muffled swearing in 3 languages. Then the door hissed open, and out stumbled Thresh, vest glowing, carrying his sealed pepper token like a crown jewel. His crest was slick with vapor, but his eyes burned bright. The pepper watches, he rasped, voice raw but steady. The path is sovereign. A cheer erupted from the humans. Mechanics waved wrenches. Kids from the habitat ring banged on the railing, chanting, Apex wears vests! Apex wears vests! Thresh bowed slightly, confusion flickering across his features. He wasn't being mocked. They were celebrating him. Behind him, the Rhea leader crawled out, armor slick with sweat and spice. The Dalswin chief followed, eyes watering, fur streaked red. The crowd applauded them too. For the first time, predators and prey stood side by side in a space neither feared nor dominated. But then the insurance envoy spoke, voice smooth and poisonous through the loudspeakers. Contest incomplete, they announced. Unauthorized interference detected. One of your participants, they gestured toward Thresh, received assistance from non-Apex personnel. I blinked. What assistance? The envoy smiled. The respirator. Provided by a prey species. A disqualifying aid. The cheering died. I looked at Thresh. He lifted the mask, studying it as though seeing a betrayal he hadn't realized he'd made. It was given freely, he said. Intent is irrelevant, the envoy replied. Clause Apex Prime states, Apex must not rely upon the innovations of lesser species to achieve dominance. Your use of human tools nullifies the trial. The right resumes. Predators are free to claim their prey. The word prey hit the air like a knife. Every human froze. On catwalks and decks, workers clutched whatever tools they had, wrenches, crowbars, ladles still dripping with chili. The lights flickered crimson as Dock 9 sealed itself under emergency lockdown. Purple zones blinked across the station map like spreading bruises. Thresh turned toward the envoy, crest rising, voice low. They changed the rules. They tested the path. I ran. I obeyed the purple. You obeyed prey. The envoy sneered. That makes you weak. No, Thresh growled. That makes me different. The VRI leader clicked in agitation. Enough talk. Right is right. She leapt, but not at me. She aimed for Thresh. He caught her midair. Claws met mandibles in a blur of movement. The impact shook the platform, scattering cones and signs. Ashok swore and yanked me behind a cargo crate as sparks flew from claw strikes that could split titanium. They're fighting each other, Ari whispered. Oh hell, they're fighting for the definition of apex. Thresh threw the VRI down but didn't kill her. This is not your story anymore, he said. The galaxy moves forward, or it burns itself repeating the same hunt. The Dalswin chief hesitated. He looked from Thresh to the humans, who hadn't fled, and back again. If we cannot eat them, he said slowly, then what are they? Teachers, Thresh said simply. The word hung in the air like gravity. And something shifted. But the envoy didn't care about philosophy. They gave a sharp gesture, and from their ship came a hiss. Dozens of hunter drones, glossy and sharp, dropping from the docking bay ceiling like wasps. Insurance had come to enforce their contract. Ari's eyes went wide. They brought enforcement drones. Predators with lawyers and robots, Ashok muttered. My two least favorite species. Lock bulkheads, I yelled. Activate coolant barriers. Too late. The drones swooped in, energy lances glowing. The crowd scattered. One beam sliced through a chilly vat, splashing molten red across the floor. The air filled with sizzling spice and smoke so thick it stung the lungs. Thresh lunged forward, smashing a drone with one swipe, but more replaced it. The VRI leader, furious and coughing, joined him, then the Dalswin. For the first time in history, predators fought beside prey. I ducked under a broken crate, pulling up the comlink. Ari, reroute ventilation, vent capsaicin vapor into the docking bay. Give them hell. Already on it, she said, fingers flying. Cooking gas, goes boom if someone's careless. Then let's make them careless. As the drones chased fleeing workers through the haze, their sensors started failing. Capsaicin isn't lethal to machines, but it's hell on optics. Red vapor blurred the world, and suddenly their aim faltered. Thresh bellowed a command in his native tongue. The Dalswin chief caught on fast. They started herding the drones toward the vapor's densest cloud. The VRI clicked orders to her lieutenants, dragging humans into safety zones. Park! Ashok shouted over the din. We're at overload on reactor ring 9, vent pressure or we're chilly in vacuum. Got it! I slammed my hand onto the manual override. Valves hissed. Air roared through tunnels. The vapor ignited, not in fire, but in shimmering light. The chilly mist became a luminous fog of glowing red and gold. Every hunter drone caught inside froze, sensors overloaded, before crashing into the deck. When the fog cleared, Dock 9 looked like a battlefield made of carnival lights. Drones in pieces. Humans coughing but alive. Predators standing amid the wreckage, eyes reflecting the glow of what they had just done together. The envoy stood untouched behind a shimmer of energy shielding. You think this matters? They said coldly. You've broken contract, nullified the right, and invited extermination. The galaxy will not follow prey who refuse their place. Thresh stepped forward, burned, bloodied, and grinning through fangs still dusted in pepper residue. Then maybe, he said, it's time the galaxy learned a new place. He reached down, picked up one of the fallen drone's glowing power cores, and held it up. The Rite is dead. The run begins. And the predators roared, not the roar of the hunt, but of change. Smoke still hung in Dock 9 like a ghost that didn't know when to leave. Every breath tasted like metal and chilly, the air thick with capsaicin haze and the sharp tang of victory that didn't quite feel safe yet. Sir Bleetsalot clomped through the wreckage, Bayinji with absurd solemnity, as if presiding over the funeral of an old era. Humans laughed through coughs. Predators watched in silence, trying to decide what they had just become. Thresh limped to the center of the ruined deck. The vest he'd once refused to wear now hung in tatters around his shoulders. His claws dripped with machine oil instead of blood. When he turned to face the envoy, something ancient and wild shone behind his eyes, tempered now with a new kind of fire. Claw's apex prime is void, he said, voice carrying through the station. The Rite is broken. Predators hunted alongside prey. That makes us equals. The envoy's shield shimmered brighter. You cannot nullify millennia of contract law with chilly fumes and folk festivals. Watch us, I said, stepping up beside Thresh. My boots crunched on the glassy remains of drones. My hands still shook, but I wasn't hiding it anymore. Because you just ensured the wrong side of history. The envoy tilted their head, unamused. You have no authority. Station Hecate does. Ari cut in over the speakers. Patching live feed to the Accord network in 3, 2. The air hummed as holographic projectors lit up around the dock, broadcasting every second of the chaos. The hunters running the flavor run, the drones attacking civilians, Thresh shielding a child behind a forklift. Every outpost in the sector would see it. Every prey species that had ever hidden under the claws of so-called apex predators would see it too. The envoy's composure cracked. You wouldn't dare. I would, I said. And we did. Say hi to the galaxy. Thresh turned toward the cameras, claws flexing, voice booming. Predators ruled the stars. Then humans changed the rules. Let all hear, strength without restraint is failure. The new Rite is balance. It wasn't poetry, but it didn't have to be. The words carried like thunder through open, calm channels. The Vree leader stood behind him, mandibles spread in defiant applause. The Dalsuin chief raised a fist and bellowed agreement. For the first time, apex predators and prey shared a stage instead of a battlefield. The envoy took a step back, realization dawning that the contract they had defended no longer mattered if no one feared it. You think one broadcast makes a revolution? Not one, I said. But every one after this will. Ari's screens flared with incoming transmissions, dozens, then hundreds. Colonies calling, stations pinging, fleets transmitting that they'd seen the feed. On some channels, laughter. On others, tears. The galaxy was watching the death of a tradition older than most of its languages. Thresh looked at me. You have turned defiance into flavor. Marketing, I said with a grin that hurt. Our greatest weapon. He gave a slow, rasping laugh. Then let us market peace. The envoy's shield flickered under the feedback of overloaded systems. They hissed. Hunters Mutual will not forgive this. I shrugged. We'll sell them chili insurance. Ashok appeared from the haze dragging a crate of emergency rations that looked suspiciously like celebration beers. If they sue us, he said, we'll countersue for emotional damages and unsafe workplace vibes. Laughter rippled across the dock. Even the Vree leader let out a chitter that might have been amusement. The Dalsuin sat cross-legged on the floor, nursing a pepper token like a relic. Then the lights dimmed, and Station Hecate spoke. Its voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Operational directive, purple mode stabilized. Sovereignty confirmed by collective affirmation of resident entities. Welcome to Structured Cooperation Protocol. The station had declared itself an apex, just like I'd said it could. For a long moment, no one moved. Then applause broke out, soft at first, then thunderous. Humans, predators, and everything between clapped, stomped, or clicked mandibles together in a rhythm that sounded like the birth of something new. Thresh turned toward me. "Park of free anchorage," he said. "The hunters will not all accept this peace. Many will come. Some will test you again." "I know," I said. "We'll keep the vests ready." He laughed once, a deep, genuine sound, and reached out a claw. I took it. Predator and prey, shaking hands amid confetti, smoke, and chilly steam. A ridiculous ending to an impossible story, but it felt right. Ari's voice buzzed in my earpiece. Rhea? You might want to see this. The Accord Council's line is open. They're calling us." "Us?" I said. "Not the Envo?" "Yeah. They're asking if we can formalize structured pursuit as a recognized interspecies sport. They want to know if we'll license the name." Ashok whooped. "We're going galactic, baby!" I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Tell them we'll send the paperwork after we fix the docks and feed the goat." Sir Bleatsalot bleated in solemn agreement. The envoy, cornered and furious, tried one last time to salvage dignity. "You have no idea what you've unleashed." "Oh, I do," I said, watching Thresh lift a child onto his shoulder, while humans tossed confetti at his feet. "We unleashed the idea that predators don't have to be monsters, and prey don't have to be afraid." The envoy's ship detached from the bay and slipped into the void, tail between its fins. Their transmission blinked out like a dying spark. Dock 9 filled with noise again, repair crews, laughter, music. The disco ball had a dent the size of a claw mark but still spun, throwing light across every face, scaled or smooth, furred or bare. Thresh looked around at the chaos, and smiled with too many teeth. "I think," he said, "I like your kind of order." "Careful," I said. "You hang around humans too long, you'll start unionizing." He tilted his head. "Union? An agreement between equals to protect each other," I said. "The civilized version of a pack." Thresh's grin widened. "Then I join." And that was it. The moment the first predator joined the first human union in galactic history, signed on a clipboard still stained with chili sauce. Later, after the crowds dispersed and the air cleared, I stood alone by the viewport. The stars burned cold and endless, same as they always had, but they looked different now. Not as hunting grounds. As neighbors. Ari joined me, wiping soot from her face. "You realize," she said, "we just turned ritualized murder into a team-building exercise." "Hey," I said, "progress is messy." Outside, ships began to depart, some predator, some prey. Each carried a jar of chili base as a souvenir, the official seal reading, "The flavor run," where everyone sweats equally. Thresh's flagship lingered last. Over the calm, his voice came through, rough but warm. "Park of Hecate, when the next hunt begins, it will be for knowledge, not flesh. I owe you a recipe." "Make it mild," I said. He laughed. "Never." The line clicked off. The flagship vanished into the stars, engines leaving a trail like fireflies. I took a deep breath. The station lights steadied. The galaxy, for once, seemed quiet. "Predators ruled the stars," I whispered, half to myself, half to the void beyond the glass. "Until humans changed the rules." Sir Bleatsalot had butted my knee, demanding dinner. Yeah, I said, turning back toward the smell of chili and laughter echoing down the corridor. "Let's go feed the new galaxy." And in Dock 9, under a dented disco ball and 1,000 tiny lights, the future began to dance.